Welcome to our YouTube channel, Party Popper. Whether you're a new viewer or a returning subscriber, we're thrilled to have you here. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey filled with the Spanish Inquisition, religious persecution and torture. We've got something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the content. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Let's dive in and explore together. Introduction. The Spanish Inquisition stands as one of the most infamous and dark chapters in European history. It was a tribunal established by the Spanish monarchy in the late 15th century with the primary aim of maintaining Catholic orthodoxy and rooting out heresy, but it soon became synonymous with religious persecution, torture, and fear. Lasting for over 3 centuries, the Spanish Inquisition left an indelible mark on the collective memory of humanity, serving as a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power and religious extremism. In this extensive exploration, we delve into the origins, mechanisms, practices, and consequences of the Spanish Inquisition. We will examine its historical context, the motivations behind its establishment, the methods used to extract confessions, the impact on society, and its enduring legacy. Origins and context. The origins of the Spanish Inquisition can be traced back to the Reconquista, the centuries-long campaign by Christian kingdoms in the Iberian Peninsula to recapture territories held by Muslim rulers. As Christian monarchs gained control over Spain, they sought to unify the kingdom under a single religion, Catholicism, and eradicate any perceived threats to religious unity. One significant event that paved the way for the establishment of the Spanish Inquisition was the fall of Granada in 1492, which marked the end of Muslim rule in Spain. With the Reconquista complete, the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile, turned their attention to consolidating power and enforcing religious conformity. In this atmosphere of religious fervor and political consolidation, the Spanish Inquisition was formally established in 1478 by a papal bull issued by Pope Sixtus IV at the request of King Ferdinand. Initially, its jurisdiction was limited to the Kingdom of Castile, but it was later extended to other Spanish territories, including Aragon, Catalonia, and Valencia. Motivations and objectives. The motivations behind the establishment of the Spanish Inquisition were manifold, intertwining religious, political, and social factors. At its core, the Inquisition aimed to preserve Catholic orthodoxy and root out heresy, which was perceived as a threat to both religious and political stability. One of the primary concerns driving the Inquisition was the presence of conversos, Jews and Muslims who had converted to Christianity, either voluntarily or under duress. Despite their conversion, conversos were often viewed with suspicion by old Christians, those who had been Christian for generations, who questioned the sincerity of their faith and feared that they were secretly practicing their former religions. Additionally, the Spanish Inquisition targeted other perceived threats to religious unity, including Protestantism, witchcraft, and various forms of heterodoxy. By identifying and eliminating these perceived threats, the Inquisition sought to create a homogeneous Catholic society free from dissent and deviation. Methods and practices. The methods employed by the Spanish Inquisition to achieve its objectives were ruthless and systematic, relying on a combination of surveillance, interrogation, torture, and public spectacle. The process typically began with the denunciation of suspected heretics by neighbors, colleagues, or even family members, leading to an investigation by Inquisition officials. Once accused, individuals faced interrogation by Inquisition tribunals, where they were pressured to confess to heretical beliefs or practices. These interrogations were often conducted in secret and were characterized by intimidation tactics, psychological manipulation, and the threat of torture. For those who refused to confess voluntarily, the Inquisition had a vast arsenal of torture devices at its disposal, including the strapado, the rack, and the infamous Iron Maiden. These devices were used to inflict pain and suffering on the accused, with the aim of breaking their will and extracting a confession. Once a confession was obtained, the accused were given the opportunity to repent and reconcile with the Church. Those who refused to repent or who were deemed to be relapsed heretics faced harsh punishments, including imprisonment, confiscation of property, and execution by burning at the stake. Impact and legacy. The impact of the Spanish Inquisition on Spanish society was profound and far-reaching, leaving scars that would endure for centuries. The atmosphere of fear and suspicion created by the Inquisition permeated every aspect of life, leading to a culture of denunciation and betrayal. The persecution of conversos, in particular, had devastating consequences for Spain's Jewish and Muslim communities. Many conversos were subjected to discrimination, harassment, and violence, regardless of their sincerity in embracing Christianity. The expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492 and the forced conversion or expulsion of Muslims in subsequent years further contributed to the social and cultural upheaval caused by the Inquisition. Moreover, the Inquisition's suppression of intellectual and religious dissent stifled innovation and creativity, driving many scholars, scientists, and artists into exile or silence. The Spanish Golden Age, a period of cultural flourishing and artistic achievement, was overshadowed by the specter of the Inquisition, which sought to enforce rigid orthodoxy and suppress any ideas deemed heretical or subversive. Despite its eventual decline and abolition in the early 19th century, the legacy of the Spanish Inquisition continues to cast a long shadow over Spain and the broader Western world. It serves as a cautionary tale of the dangers of religious intolerance, unchecked power, and the erosion of individual liberties in the name of ideological purity. The Inquisition and Conversos. One of the primary targets of the Spanish Inquisition was the conversos, Jews and Muslims who had converted to Christianity. The presence of conversos in Spanish society raised suspicions among Old Christians, who viewed them with distrust and often accused them of secretly practicing their former religions. The Inquisition launched a concerted campaign to root out conversos suspected of heresy, using methods ranging from surveillance and interrogation to torture and execution. Many conversos were subjected to harassment, discrimination, and violence, regardless of their sincerity in embracing Christianity. The persecution of conversos had profound consequences for Spanish society, leading to social and cultural divisions that would endure for centuries. Despite their efforts to assimilate into Christian society, conversos were often treated as second-class citizens, subject to suspicion and discrimination. The Spanish Inquisition and Muslims. In addition to targeting conversos, the Spanish Inquisition also focused its efforts on Muslims, particularly those who had remained in Spain following the Reconquista. Despite their conversion to Christianity, Muslims were viewed with suspicion by Old Christians, who questioned the sincerity of their faith and feared that they were secretly practicing Islam. The Inquisition launched campaigns to root out Muslims suspected of heresy, using methods similar to those employed against conversos. Many Muslims were subjected to surveillance, interrogation, and torture, leading to widespread fear and paranoia within Muslim communities. The persecution of Muslims had devastating consequences for Spanish society, contributing to the erosion of trust and cohesion between Christian and Muslim communities. The forced conversion or expulsion of Muslims further exacerbated tensions, leading to social and cultural divisions that would persist for generations. The Spanish Inquisition and Protestants. Although initially focused on rooting out heresy within the Catholic Church, the Spanish Inquisition later expanded its scope to include Protestants, who were perceived as a threat to religious unity and political stability. The spread of Protestantism in Europe posed a direct challenge to the authority of the Catholic Church, leading to fears of rebellion and social unrest. The Inquisition launched campaigns to identify and suppress Protestantism, using methods ranging from surveillance and interrogation to torture and execution. Many Protestants were subjected to harassment, discrimination, and violence, as the Inquisition sought to eradicate any traces of heresy within Spanish society. The persecution of Protestants had profound consequences for Spanish society, leading to social and cultural divisions that would endure for centuries. Despite their efforts to resist persecution, many Protestants were forced to flee Spain or practice their faith in secret, leading to the suppression of religious freedom and the stifling of intellectual and cultural expression. The Inquisition and Witchcraft. In addition to targeting Jews, Muslims, and Protestants, the Spanish Inquisition also focused its efforts on rooting out witchcraft and sorcery, which were perceived as threats to religious and social order. The widespread belief in witchcraft led to fears of demonic possession and supernatural phenomena, leading to the persecution of individuals accused of practicing witchcraft. The Inquisition launched campaigns to identify and suppress witchcraft, using methods ranging from surveillance and interrogation to torture and execution. Many individuals accused of witchcraft were subjected to harassment, discrimination, and violence, as the Inquisition sought to eradicate any traces of heresy within Spanish society. The persecution of witchcraft had profound consequences for Spanish society, leading to widespread fear and paranoia within communities. Despite efforts to resist persecution, many individuals accused of witchcraft were forced to flee Spain or face execution, leading to the suppression of religious freedom and the stifling of intellectual and cultural expression. Torture in the Spanish Inquisition. Torture played a central role in the Spanish Inquisition, serving as a means of extracting confessions and maintaining control over perceived threats to religious and political stability. The Inquisition employed a wide range of torture devices and techniques, designed to inflict maximum pain and suffering on the accused. One of the most notorious torture devices used by the Inquisition was the strapado, a form of suspension torture in which the victim's arms were tied behind their back and then raised behind them, causing excruciating pain and dislocation of the shoulders. Other common forms of torture included the rack, the thumbscrew, and the infamous Iron Maiden, a coffin-like device with spikes on the inside. Despite its widespread use, torture was not always effective in extracting confessions, as many victims were willing to endure unimaginable pain rather than betray their beliefs or innocence. Nevertheless, the threat of torture served as a powerful deterrent, instilling fear and obedience among those accused of heresy. Famous cases and trials. Throughout its history, the Spanish Inquisition conducted numerous high-profile trials that captured the public imagination and shaped popular perceptions of the tribunal. One of the most famous cases was that of Tomás de Torquemada, the first Grand Inquisitor of Spain, who oversaw the persecution of Jews, Muslims, and other perceived threats to Catholic orthodoxy. Another famous case was that of Galileo Galilei, the Italian scientist who was tried and convicted of heresy by the Roman Inquisition for his support of the heliocentric theory of the universe. Despite his groundbreaking discoveries, Galileo was forced to recant his beliefs and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. Other notable cases include those of Bartolomé de las Casas, the Spanish friar who spoke out against the mistreatment of Native Americans, and Miguel de Molinos, the founder of the Quietist movement, who was accused of heresy and imprisoned by the Inquisition. Opposition to the Spanish Inquisition. Despite its power and influence, the Spanish Inquisition faced opposition from various quarters, including intellectuals, religious reformers, and political leaders. Critics of the Inquisition denounced its methods as cruel and unjust, and called for the abolition of the tribunal and the restoration of religious freedom. One of the most vocal opponents of the Spanish Inquisition was Erasmus of Rotterdam, the Dutch humanist and theologian, who condemned the tribunal's use of torture and coercion in extracting confessions. Other critics included Juan de Mariana, the Spanish Jesuit historian, and Francisco de Vitoria, the Spanish theologian and philosopher, who argued for the protection of individual rights and liberties. Despite these efforts, the Spanish Inquisition remained a powerful and entrenched institution, resisting attempts at reform and continuing to wield authority over Spanish society for centuries. Decline and abolition. The decline of the Spanish Inquisition began in the late 18th century, as the Enlightenment ideals of reason, tolerance, and individual rights gained traction in Europe. The tribunal came under increasing criticism from intellectuals, politicians, and religious leaders, who called for its abolition and the establishment of religious freedom. One of the most significant blows to the Spanish Inquisition came with the Napoleonic Wars, which saw the invasion of Spain by French forces and the imposition of secular reforms. The Spanish Inquisition was formally abolished in 1834 by the Regent Maria Cristina of Bourbon, marking the end of over 3 centuries of religious persecution and torture. Despite its abolition, the legacy of the Spanish Inquisition continues to cast a long shadow over Spain and the broader Western world. The tribunal serves as a cautionary tale of the dangers of religious intolerance, unchecked power, and the erosion of individual liberties in the name of ideological purity. Legacy and historical interpretations. The legacy of the Spanish Inquisition remains a subject of debate among historians and scholars, with interpretations ranging from condemnation to revisionism. While some historians view the Inquisition as a necessary evil that preserved Catholic orthodoxy and political stability, others see it as a dark chapter in European history that inflicted untold suffering and devastation on countless individuals and communities. One of the most enduring legacies of the Spanish Inquisition is its impact on the collective memory of humanity, serving as a cautionary tale of the dangers of fanaticism, intolerance, and the abuse of power. The tribunal continues to evoke strong emotions and reactions, reminding us of the importance of safeguarding religious freedom, promoting tolerance, and upholding the principles of justice and human dignity. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Spanish Inquisition remains a dark and troubling chapter in human history, a reminder of the dangers of religious intolerance, unchecked power, and the erosion of individual liberties. Born out of a desire to enforce religious conformity and maintain political control, it inflicted untold suffering and devastation on countless individuals and communities. As we reflect on the legacy of the Spanish Inquisition, we are reminded of the importance of confronting the injustices of the past and learning from the mistakes of history. Only by acknowledging the dark chapters of our past can we hope to build a more just and compassionate world for future generations. Thanks for watching.